Troublesome times are here, filling men's hearts with fear. Freedom we all hold dear, now is at stake. Humble your hearts to God, safe from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod, Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon, morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. Trumpets will sound, and all of the
Thanks for sharing your time with us today. We're honored today to have one of Nashville's special council persons with us. Did I say that right when I said council person?
Yeah, I call myself a councilman.
A councilman, okay. And it's from District Number 33, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And his name, get this, is Robert Duvall. Now, we're going to run some jokes here, and then we're going to get down to business and do some. Robert, glad to have you here.
Brother Thomas, it's so good to be here with you.
How many times have you had people ask you about Lonesome Dove?
More times than I can count on my hands and feet.
I bet so. Have you ever met Duvall?
No, I haven't. I would love to do so. It would be interesting. Yeah, I'd love to. He filmed The Apostle here in the Nashville area, and that was one of my favorite movies.
I had somebody told me, and I don't know where I got. I never did do any research on it, but he got the actor in his mind that he was playing with was based on some minister in this area.
I believe it was true. Maybe a minister in Millersville.
Yeah, it may have been. That's what I had heard.
Yeah.
But he, boy, he is an actor, isn't he?
I think so. Yeah, and he got started really in The Godfather. I think that was his.
Was first?
That was his big break, and I don't know a lot about his history or his movies. I just know that I love them, and particularly the cowboy movies. I've always just thought that the westerns were absolutely over the roof.
The movie Lonesome Dove.
Yep.
I just enjoyed that movie. It just, my wife bought it for me, and I just, every time it comes on, I still can sit down and watch it. And, I've probably got the thing memorized, but when you get as old as I am, you don't mind watching them over because it don't take any effort.
That's right, and I enjoy them too. I've got them, I'll tell you, I'm so old, I got them in VHS.
Yes. Tommy Lee Jones, I believe it is, who plays the old captain in that one. And I thought, halfway through the movie, I thought it was a country music singer, what's his name? Kenny Rogers. I thought it was Kenny Rogers, but boy, they were a group of actors that was in that show.
Yeah, they were absolutely good. There were so many roles that were played that were so well orchestrated.
I love movies where they have a lot of horses in it. And Open Range, it's a violent movie.
Yeah.
But they show the horses and what kind of gear the actual you would use. Today's cowboy, the old cowboy, didn't have that kind of gear, but it shows those horses and how big they are and that kind of gear, and that just always fascinated me.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the era of Hopalong Cassidy, John Wayne, Gene Autry, and
you shoot people to get up and walk off.
Yeah, Lone Ranger. Who'll ever forget the Lone Ranger?
I heard the Lone Ranger on radio.
I did too.
Yes,
I did too. When I was in my grandma's home up in the hills of Kentucky, the only thing we had was radio. So we'd listen on Saturday morning. We'd listen to the radio program. And the Hopalong Cassidy and the Lone Ranger. Oh man, I tell you, I knew that song. I knew exactly what it was. It was years later I found out it was a concerto.
Where'd you grow up?
Well, I grew up all over the country. Spent a lot of time in the Louisville, Kentucky area and southern Indiana. A lot of my young childhood, school years. My father was a lifer in the military, so I moved around considerably. I've went literally from coast to coast, Washington, D.C. to
Did you like that?
California. I never,
didn't know anything else.
You just didn't know nothing that would be any different. It was interesting. I learned a lot. I will tell you this, I've never been to a place in the United States I didn't love.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
I have a friend that does our cooking for our summer camp, and he has got to the retirement age, and he bought a motor home and his wife, and he told me, he said, I've paid taxes for this country all my life. I'm going to see it now. Yeah. And so he travels. They told me this morning he's in Northern California. He just travels and travels. Been going to spend it. Sold his house, is what I understand.
Really?
Just lives in a motor home, just having himself.
If that makes him happy, God bless him.
That's right.
I went up Northern California. You talk about. I went up Feather River and actually panned for gold.
Did you?
Up there, absolutely. I got about a half a aspirin bottle of a gold dust.
See, I want to do stuff like that. When I get old enough to retire, I'm going to do that.
Well, I did it when I was young.
What brought you to Nashville?
Work. My company had changed, and I was unemployed, and I had a number of connections here in the Nashville area, and was fortunate enough to catch on. I started out really doing some consulting work. I wasn't sure that it was going to pan out to be permanent work, and it did. I was fortunate enough to be offered a job and spent a number of years here in the area. I was one of the folks with Martha White Foods when it was bought by Pillsbury and liquidated, and what a wonderful company that was, and what wonderful leadership. The management team that was there, Bobby Dale, our president, is just one of the top quality people I know in my life.
What are the qualities in management, good management? You know, there's a lot of managers out there, and there is and you may have seen this, I bought, because I don't read well and spell worse, so the staff bought me a voice activation system for my computer. Mm-hmm. Well, we knew I couldn't read. Now I got the voice activation system. It says I can't talk.
Oh, there you go.
It's just not designed, but I'm making it. I'm working with it. But they had, I think it's dog birth, I believe is the word, business management book. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't.
It's a guy that has turned, it's, what you do is you read the book. They give you experts to read when you're training your computer to your voice. And you're supposed to read this. And they got the Gettysburg Address and Kennedy's statements and all these things that you read so they can recognize, the machine can recognize your voice. Well, I started reading this thing, and it is so funny. It's about management. It is so funny. I can't use it because I spend my time laughing instead of. And what this guy's done is taken middle management, and he's made a joke out of it. And he explains so many people. I'm going way around to get to this point. He explains so many people that want to be managers that are not managers, and he puts it in actual 1, 2, 3. And man, when I read that, I see people, and I can put names of those people, you know, that couldn't manage. Management's hard to come by. A good manager is hard to come by. What are the characteristics that you see in a good manager that?
Number one thing that I would look for is people skills.
Meaning what now when you say people skills?
Being able to handle people. Never ask somebody to do something you wouldn't do yourself. And I've literally done it all. I can remember years ago when I got hired back then. They called me a stock boy.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a boy, I was a man. Okay?
Still a stock boy, though.
But I was still a stock boy by the title.
Yeah.
And on Friday afternoon, before I left Friday, even though a lot of times I worked on Saturdays, I had to scrub the toilets. Ultimately, I became a department manager, assistant store manager, and a store manager, and a region area manager, and moved my way up. It was Allied Sporting Goods. They pretty well got run out of business by the Walmarts, the big box retailers. But for years, they were very viable. And it was a great opportunity. But there I can say I never asked anybody to do something that I wouldn't do and hadn't done. And I think it was a great learning tool. I think some of the best training I received during my career was with Frito-Lay. I spent a number of years with them. They were absolutely great trainers and developers of young people in management. I would encourage anybody that could get to a Frito-Lay or a P&G organization. Their management teams cross over very well. Ryder Integrated Logistics. I spent a number of years with Ryder. Well, not a number of years, a little over a year, really.
Well, now what logistics? People use that word around me a lot. What is logistics?
It really, truthfully, it gets down to the organization as to what they quantify logistics as being. But logistics can be anything from the point of ordering materials, controlling the process of bringing it in, storing it, providing it to manufacturing when they convert it into a finished goods, and at that point taking it away from manufacturing, storing it again, taking the order, which I've done a lot of with customer service. I've had huge customer service departments, and shipping it on to the customer and getting it to them on time in good condition and good order, and even included in some cases settling the invoice to make sure it's paid in full. So that is what it could be. With some companies it's strictly transportation, some companies it's strictly warehousing, some companies it's a combination of both. I have done all facets, and I've had all facets report to me. So I really do understand everything from the buying and even sourcing of suppliers all the way through to delivering to the customer.
I I worked in a service station for years, and I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I worked for a local man here out in South Nashville, not as far out as your district, but down on Nolens Road down there at Wallace Road and Nolens Road down there.
Right where Southern Hills is.
Yes, right there. That was before Southern Hills. It was a 2-lane road when I worked there.
I hear you.
And he was self-made manager, grew up on a farm in Virginia. And he told me, we make our profit in our buying, not in our selling, so that our competition controls what we sell things for. So we have to shop and get the best price in buying. That's where we make our profit. And I thought that was real good business.
Yeah, it becomes, some of the items are commodity items. I've spent a lot of my career in commodities. When you talk about making dog food or flour with Martha White Foods or Odom Tennessee Pride and sausage, it has to do with the commodity of buying hogs or buying meal or buying mids or even in some case you're not even basic in it, you buy it already converted. You know, it's just commodities are a major piece of the puzzle. On top of that, purchasing. If you're purchasing a finished good, let's say that you don't have the capability of packing something, you don't have the money to make the investment, you can outsource that, go to somebody else, and if you can negotiate a price where you can get a fair return and you can take it to market at a fair price, that's very important. So I understand that.
You are a man, it seems like he's seen it all and done it all now.
I don't know about that. I've seen a little bit.
You know enough to live and get through.
You don't get as old as I have, but not seen it a little bit.
You're married?
I am.
And raised children?
I have
grandchildren?
I have 4 grandchildren, 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, and 3 granddaughters and 1 grandson. 2 are. One is in Tennessee, but over in La Follette, and the other one's over in North Carolina.
You grandkids are great, aren't they?
Absolutely. You know, I've had people tell me one time, and I love my kids, don't get me wrong.
I know.
But you know what?
I know what you're going to say.
The grandkids, why couldn't I have them first?
Yes, I've heard that over and over, and I understand that. I've never had children. I just had foster kids. But if you can love them anymore, and I love my foster kids, you know, my hat's off to you, because they're just special. They're special. But I love them grand ones. When they walk in the rooms, they granddaddy. That's it. You know, you can be
absolutely.
You can be at Walmart and they can holler granddaddy, and it's all right. I tell this, and I've told it here before. I got so amazed. I was in. We had a ministry in Pensacola, in Mobile, and so I finished up in Mobile one year and had to go over to Pensacola, and I traveled in a motor home. So my wife said, "Let's go down to the beach," and we had a couple of days we had to kill. So we go to this camping ground, and man, you know, I've got a modest motor home. Man, this guy brought in, you know, this big old rig, you know, it was worth $250,000 probably. Backed in there, opened the door, and turned out the wildest bunch of grandkids you've ever seen in your life. They just tore that campground apart. And he just walked around, and then tear something up, and he'd just look at him and just laugh and go on. I thought, man, that's a rich guy that didn't take care of his kids, and now he's living through his grandkids. He was having the time of his life.
Well, I try to help give some discipline to children if they need it. I'm not going to let them get away with too much, but it doesn't take too many hugs for me to be real forgiving real fast.
That's what I mean. Military, growing up as a military, what some people say a military brat.
Yep.
Were you, did that help you a lot for the military discipline?
I think it did. I really did.
Were you in the military?
I spent some time in the United States Navy Reserve, yep. So I had 6 years there, but my father was a lifer, and he was World War II. He was D-Day, Normandy Beach. When we Dad never talked about the war.
Talk about it.
When he passed away, he had a cigar box underneath his bed downstairs in the basement. They lived in Kansas, so you definitely had a bed down in the basement for tornadoes.
Yeah.
And so my brother and I went down and got his cigar box out, and there were 3 silver stars, 2 bronze stars, and a Purple Heart in there.
He never told anybody.
Yeah, he never. We knew he had a Purple Heart because we knew he'd been blowed up in Saint-Lô, France. But he survived that, and back then they used the Army Air Corps in some cases like it were light duty. And so when he spent 89 days in England in a hospital, it took 90 days to come back stateside. So he was desperately wounded. At 89 days, they transferred him over to the Army Air Corps, and so he was considered on light duty. And they taught him to fly a plane. He flew a number of missions into France, and I don't know exactly what those missions were. Again, he never talked about it other than saying that's what he did. And he said then they needed us boys back on the front, and he got put back on the front, and he was in the final push into Berlin.
I had an uncle that was in Italy, and he was wounded there, and he wouldn't talk about it, until I went to Vietnam. When I went to Vietnam and I came back, and nobody else in the room, he'd talk. He'd sit there, just talk up a storm to me about it. And boy, he went through some tough stuff, man.
Yeah.
But when other people came in the room, he'd stop talking.
Yeah, well, I pulled a tour of duty in Iraq in 2004 as a contractor, civilian contractor. Went over there really for logistics and ended up ultimately moving into a security role because I'm fairly proficient with weapons. But I wish Dad would have been around for that. When Vietnam got going, he said, I've paid the price for this country. He said, I don't want you going over there, because I wanted to go. But I respected my father, I respected him, and to the highest regard.
They were the real heroes, I think. Let's talk about Nashville.
Okay.
You're a council person, councilman.
Thank you.
Why did you get into the council?
I wasn't happy with the way the community was going. I felt like it was not, it wasn't the same community that I'd moved into in the 1980s. I moved here in 1985. I had a house built, and by 86 was in a home that I'd built.
Now, what district? 33, but nobody knows what 33 is.
District 33 has a portion of the Hermitage area that's across the lake. It's isolated from Davidson County. It takes in the Antioch area of southeast Davidson County. It has all of the Rutherford County line, and then it goes over to the area now that's known as Cane Ridge. I don't have all of Cane Ridge, but I have a part of Cane Ridge. Hickory Hollow is not mine. I go right up to it.
Okay.
I've butted it all of the time that I've served, and I've actually been elected to 3 different terms. One term was for a 300-day roughly term, and then I was reelected twice for 4-year terms, which I'm serving my second 4-year term now.
Now you can. This is your last.
This is the last as a district councilman, yes.
So you could go as a councilman at large.
I could do that, yes.
My friend Buck Dozier did that. I think he
ran
as a councilman, and then he went to councilman.
Buck's a good friend of mine, now director of the fairgrounds, and I'm doing everything I can to help him.
He's chairman of the board of the inner city ministry.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What a great man.
He is, and he has a great name recognition in the city of Nashville.
As far as I'm concerned, he's as good a quality people as you can find in Nashville.
What do you want to have happen? Tell me about Nashville. I mean, I hear people, and we're uninformed when people make statements like, well, you know, it's Nashville getting too big and so forth and so on. Nobody likes change. But things like the convention center coming in, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like in the next 10 years here, because, man, we got people coming from everywhere to this town. This is a popular place to be.
Well, it has been a popular place. I think some of the things, I don't have all of the answers as to what's going on in Nashville. I would consider myself not one of what I call the movers and shakers, the people that really make things happen. But I do serve on the council, and I do listen to the people that elect me, and I do represent them. And I've never not voted the way they wanted me to take from a position standpoint, because I work for them. That's my job. I would never vote against my convictions. I'm a Christian, so I would never, if someone wanted me to go against my Christian beliefs, I wouldn't do that. But no one has ever asked me to do that, and I don't think anyone will ever do so. Some of the things I wonder about, and I'll step back. I believe that when we closed, we didn't close them, but when Opryland got closed by Gaylord,
the amusement park.
The amusement park. I think that hurt this city.
That hurt the city. I agree.
I think it hurt us from a notoriety standpoint. It hurt us from a tourist standpoint. And I think at that point it told us how important one corporation, Gaylord, was to our survival or our notoriety and put us on the map. There are pros and cons about some of the things that happened after that. Mayor Bredesen brought the Titans in.
That surprised me.
That has been, it surprised me too. I didn't think they'd come, but
the impact they've had is what surprised me.
well, the impact, no one can say it hasn't been good for the city.
That's
from
right.
a PR standpoint. Was the deal a good deal for the stadium? Probably not. But the truth is, have they been a good
From where I sit, they've been
positive.
good for Nashville.
They've been. I believe that to be true.
And
I
I would have voted, if you'd asked me and I was in a voting position, I'd have voted against it probably.
I did.
You did? And then,
Make no
boy, when they
mistake
come in,
about it.
I couldn't believe what kind of positive impact they've had on this city.
Yeah.
Especially when they start winning.
Well, and that's true. And everybody likes a winner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I would start winning, some people might like me. The arena, as the Predators deals have been shaky at times. You know, we put a lot of money into that arena, and I don't think we've ever got the success or return out of it. But some of the positive things, think about what we did. If without that arena, we wouldn't have been able to bring the Southeastern Conference basketball tournaments to town.
And we're in that for the long run there.
And we're in there for the long run.
And that puts a lot of money in business pockets and jobs downtown.
And what a wonderful thing that does for us from a standpoint of national notoriety. And I'm going to tell you, I don't know who all the key players are there, but they deserve a bunch of attaboys. Mm-hmm. And there's maybe at times I've been at odds with those folks for one reason or another, but it has to do with where we think we should be going or what we should be doing, not with what they're doing. And the job they did to making that happen, they deserve all the accolades.
Well, when the convention center opens up, that's what they call it, I think. The big barn downtown.
Music City Convention Center.
And they get these big conventions in here for this town. I'm going to have to come to work at midnight and go home at midnight, I think, because now the traffic is, I thought when we built 440, when that it was going to be, and 840 was going to relieve all this traffic in down. Man, you can't, from 3:30 to 6:30, it's a parking lot downtown getting out of here.
It is, traffic is a problem, but it's been a problem in inner city. I mean, go back to the days when we had Castronaut downtown, and a lot of people don't know what Castronaut is.
They don't. They don't. I remember.
You and I remember.
I didn't shop down there, but I think I bought one suit down there. Yeah.
But you know, that was a problem then too. So you know, downtowns, I believe that really what was the beginning of why we started getting shopping centers in the suburbs, and malls followed because of people didn't have place to park. Congestion, and so they moved to the suburbs where the people were, and it was a smart move for the retailers to do that.
I was listening to and we got some things you may want to talk about. We ain't got 5. I've enjoyed this visit. I appreciate you coming.
This is fun.
I had a business person tell me one day that was talking about businesses moving to Nashville, and he said it's one thing that brings them here. And I said, what's that? And he said, backyard. They want a house with a backyard where the children can play in the backyard. That's why they come to Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
And man, they're going now all the way to Pulaski to work in Nashville and live in Pulaski, live down toward McMinnville, other side of Lebanon, Carthage, and driving back and forth.
Yeah, and there's a couple things causing that. First of all, Nashville, I agree that Nashvillians do have a living style and a living standard, and we should be able to have some green grass, and we should be able to have some property to live on, and we shouldn't expect to be stacked on top of apartments where we're 40 stories high, which is a bill that's getting ready to go before the council this coming Tuesday, where they're going to take what they call the Midtown area, and they're going to authorize zoning on it where we can build high-rises 20 stories or higher. And I think that's a mistake. I think that's a major mistake when you take an area like where the Tin Angel is, and you look directly across the street. I think that's Mazzoni's and the Outback restaurant and those places, and all of a sudden you can go to high-rises that are going to come all the way out to the sidewalk, which means the street can never be wider. I think that's a mistake, and I think expecting us to stack people on top of each other, you know, I just don't believe that's the right avenue for this city to go.
You don't feel that in your heart, do you?
I believe, no, not at all. Now,
We got 3 minutes to go now. Keep
Okay,
talking.
well, I'm sorry.
You're doing all right.
I went
No,
too long,
you're doing
haven't I?
no.
Rambled on.
I rambled too much chasing rabbits, but I don't know. It's the first time I ever met you.
Yeah.
I want to get to know you. Go ahead.
But this, I believe there's a bunch of things we can do. We were talking about Music City Convention Center. I'll be there Sunday the 19th for the ribbon cutting, and it's going to be important for the city. I will tell you, I did not support it. I opposed it. I worked against it every way I could to stop it because I thought it was a bad deal, bad plan, and I think we'll have a hard time paying for it. With that said, it was passed by this council, and if you think I won't work just as hard to make it successful, you're wrong.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I think it's going to be a blessing to us. I don't know anything about paying for it. I don't know anything about the cost of it. I just know that my people in the inner city can't get jobs. If the jobs are out at Hickory Hollow, they don't have transportation. And when you bring jobs to downtown area, my folks can get jobs, and I'm in it for my folks.
And I appreciate what you do for your ministry, because before I agreed to come on this show, I checked you out, and you've got a wonderful reputation, a quality person, and thank you for everything you've done for Nashville.
This is good for our city.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate your honesty of when you say I was against it, but now everybody else is for it, and we voted in, or whoever voted for it, I'm gonna work just hard. That is good leadership.
Yeah, I try to do what's right.
That is good leadership. What would you? We got 2 minutes. What would you like to see happen in Nashville?
Oh, geez.
Is that a fair question?
It is a fair question. The question is whether I can answer it in 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, you come back. Will you come back on the show again with us?
I could do that.
We'll
sometime,
save that
yeah.
one. We'll save that
right.
one. When you come back, we'll talk about your bucket list. What you'd like to see happen in Nashville and your bucket list before you die.
After this budget is over with, I probably could answer that better.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And we're going to have to wrap this thing up. This city, one thing that attracts people here is not only just the backyard. One thing, Nashville people are good people.
They are.
This is a great place to live. It's where you can still hear somebody say howdy. You know,
well, listen, I could live anywhere in the country I want to live.
And you've lived most of it.
And I live in Nashville, Tennessee. When my wife and I bought the house we live in today, I said, that's where I'm going to die. That's exactly what I plan to do.
Well, I'll tell you what, I appreciate your statement. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your statement. You told me before we came on there, you lived all across this country and you enjoyed every place you lived.
I do.
And I spent a little over a year in Saigon, and I enjoyed it. I'm the only American who went to Vietnam and had a good time. But I love Nashville,
We won't
Tennessee.
talk about that.
I love Nashville, Tennessee, brother. You know too much. I love Nashville, and I love the people here. And I appreciate the job y'all do in government. Thanks for joining us.
God bless
Folks,
you.
Thanks for joining us here, and you'll come back.
I'll come back.
Great. Looking forward.
Feeling in touch with fear. Freedom we all hold dear. Now is that stake. Humble your heart to God. Save from the chastening rod. Seek the way pilgrims trod. Christians away. My Jesus is coming soon. Morning or night or noon. Many will meet their doom. Trumpets will sound, and all of the dead shall rise. Righteous me in the skies. I'm going where no one dies, heavenward bound. What troubles will soon see, you're happy forevermore. When we meet on that shore, free from all care. Rising up in the skies, telling this world goodbye.